January 14th, 2018. This video is called Fukushima Made Me Switch from Eden Organic. And that's unfortunate because this was my top canned goods company. And I don't eat too many beans, but I really love my garbanzo beans. They're really good for you. So maybe I should just soak my own beans, but I used to get Eden Organic because, believe it or not, they were one of the first ones that came out with the BPA-free can lining because of the BPA that lines it. The plastic lining gets into the foods that is stored in these cans. But the reason why, actually, there's probably a couple other companies out there, but I gotta go with the organic and challenge conventional culture. So I switched to this brand right here, Westbra Natural, and it's a BPA-free lining. It's organic, but let me show you the reason why I switched from Eden Organic. Now, since Fukushima happened, it basically destroyed the seafood. It destroyed a lot of things and a list of stuff. But this is a new ingredient that Eden Organic is putting into their cans where they weren't using it before. It's this Kombu seaweed. Now, when I seen this in the product, I kind of scratched my head but never thought about like the correlation between Fukushima and seaweed. So it got me thinking. So this video is going to show you what I found about the seaweed that they're using in here and why. You can do what you want, but I am trying to eat as purely as I can. And I wrote to the company, and I'll show you the email about my concern with Fukushima radiation. And what they basically told me is I'm pretty sure the email response implies that all of their seaweed contains either cesium-137 and or 134, but it's at safe levels. And that's why I chose to dump and switch my Eden Organic to this new variety, because if you look in the ingredients over here, they are using sea salt. Now, I know they're going away with salt, and I think that's why these guys are going with the seaweed for the saltiness, which sounds more healthier for you. And I would have agreed with that until Fukushima hit and changed everything that we do. So check out the rest of this video. I'm going to show you why I did switch from Eden Organic, unfortunately. The email that I sent them, this was sent to Eden Foods. I said, "Hello, I found the information on your seaweed and Fukushima reassuring, and if you go over here, they do state that they do test for the radiation." I said, "Is there anywhere to see the test results for cesium or whatever you tested for? Love your chickpeas and would like to still consume them. Just cautious what I eat, and this contamination scares me." Now, here's customer service, and they replied the next day. "Customer service, good morning. Thank you for contacting Eden Foods. All products we import from Japan are tested for cesium-134 and 137 and iodine at less than 10 becquerels per kilogram, which is considered undetected. These testing standards are more sensitive than both food and water requirements in the US, EU, and Japan." Now, they test them, and as long as they're below 10 becquerels per kilogram, it's considered safe. Now, they're not saying that there are 0 becquerels per kilogram of cesium in this iodine. they're just saying that it's less than 10, which they consider undetected. Which is kind of like, did you ever see a basketball game when they have less than 1 second on the clock? Like, how is that possible? It's just like this. They are saying it's undetected, that it's over 10 becquerels. It still contains that radiation. Now, that's what the reason why I am not eating it. Now, if you look at the history of this kombu, it's an edible kelp, mostly from the family Laminariaceae, and is widely eaten in East Asia. Okay, there are 18 edible species, and the one that we're looking at is this Saccharina japonica, which is the ma kombu. Okay, that's the one that they're using. What is kombu? It says that kombu's a dark brownish in color sea vegetable known as kelp. There's the scientific name. Species japonica. It says Eden's kombu is hand harvested in pristine waters off of the southeastern coast of Hokkaido. And I know I'm butchering that, so I apologize, Japan. This type of kombu, known as ma kombu, is highly prized for its minerals, vitamins, and trace elements. All right here it's how much iodine is in kombu, and it says that it contains 8,000 milligrams for 100 grams of kombu, I'm thinking. So it kind of seems high to me. I don't know what the numbers mean, but this is what is in kombu. All this stuff. But what's most important is this iodine, 8,000 milligrams. Now, the funny thing is, it's not labeled that it's contained in the can of Eden Organic. And I think that's because FDA regulations regarding iodine addition to foods, it's got to be labeled if it's added. And I think if it contains it naturally, it doesn't have to be labeled. So you got to be careful, because there's that 8,000 milligrams, remember. So where do the sea vegetables come from? This is off their website. They say Eden sea vegetables are the highest quality in the world, cultivated or wild, hand harvested in pristine, environmentally protected seas. Now, all Eden vegetables, except for this dulse, come from Japan, where they are continuously fed and cleansed by Arctic currents and collected off seashores that are protected as natural treasures. The dulse is hand harvested. That's from Canada. Eden has frequently visited each area where the sea vegetables are grown and processed, and we are proud to support the local craft. Okay, are they safe to eat? It says yes. Eden sea vegetables are the highest quality. They're the purest that we can procure. Some cultivated, some wild. Okay, that's what we just said. Upstairs over there. They're in protected areas in Japan and Canada. Since the Fukushima disaster, all Eden food imported from Japan is multi-radionuclide tested, both in Japan and in the United States, to ensure safety. Okay. Now, of the 12 Japanese sea vegetables, 10 of them are from the Ria coast of Ishishima, an environmentally protected national park, for 70 years. It's south of Tokyo and just north of Osaka on Japan's Pacific East Coast. Its position relative to Fukushima could not have been more fortuitous, and so far has not been impacted by atmospheric or oceanic drift radiation. Prognosis for ongoing supply seems good, although price pressures began immediately. Air current dispersion models that they're monitoring show nothing reaching the seaweed producing areas. Additionally, ocean currents around Japan are miraculously favorable for taking seawater radiation directly away from Eden's sea vegetable producing area of south of the Isle Bay. Now the Eden Kombu is from Hokkaido, Japan's northern island. Tsunami damage to the crop is still being repaired, and this area too has been protected by contamination by both ocean and air currents. They're very, very lucky that the supplies have remained protected from Fukushima contamination. The testing protocols remain vigorous and stout as we protect ourselves from possible exposure, continually available of traditional prepared edible sea vegetables. One completely destroyed Eden sea vegetable supplier was Riken and their South Coast Wakimi flakes. The crop and village of harvesters was totally destroyed by the earthquake and tsunami and are now subject to nuclear radiation. Our location for Eden flakes was relocated and are now cultivated in this Naruto Strait between Sakuka and Awaji Islands, where powerful tidal currents and whirlpools between the inland Japan Sea and the Pacific Ocean create exceptional wakimi. Now read the article for the ocean current map. Okay, that's all and good. I just want to show you here that's the other sea vegetable. Hiziki is wild grown and it's harvested, they say, from cold, clean Arctic current sea of Japan, main island of Honshu. It's in this environmentally protected Ria coast of Isashimi National Park. Okay, after harvesting, it's boiled and dried in the traditional manner. Now, that's all and good, but I'm going to show you why I think that I wouldn't really, or the reason why I'm not eating organic anymore. Now, here is the national park where the kelp is being grown. Actually, this is where this Hiziki, okay, not the kelp. I'll show you the other where the kelp is being grown. Now they're saying it's in around here. Here's the island right here, okay. This is the island that they're talking about, and I'm wondering, now some of these are where they're growing fish, but if you look at these pens, they're either growing fish and they're also could be growing the kelp and seaweed in some of these places. But this is an area that they are growing that at. Now this is the island where the kelp is actually being grown. Now this is one thing I want you to see though that I came across, which I think is very interesting. Look at this boat here, and they're harvesting or doing something over here, which I find pretty bizarre. And it all comes into these, maybe these are trawlers, I have no idea. Look at these boats, and they're doing something out here. See how this comes in here? And then it ends up disappearing. Maybe you could put a comment and let me know what you think. That's kind of bizarre what they're doing in here. But this is where they're growing the kelp. That's that island right there. Now check it out. I'm going to show you something very interesting. Let's turn this around. Now remember, Fukushima is right over here. This is where they're growing the kelp, in this area right in here and right over in here. I'll show you how I got the proof of that. It states it on some of the packaging. Now remember, Fukushima is right over here. This puppy has been leaking. It's going to be going on 7 years. like 300 tons of radioactive water each day flows through from these mountains here to the sea, and they're going through the basement with I'm pretty sure it's 6 cores that were damaged. No one ever talks about these 2 units over here, 5 and 6, but these had core damage, reactor core damage, that nobody talks about. So anyways, there's Fukushima. That's where it's melting and bleeding into the ocean. And this is where they're growing the kelp. Now this is, someone was testing dried kelp for seaweed for radiation, and here is where they're harvesting it, right? So here's that island. They're harvesting it right outside here, and then right outside here. Right? There and there. So that would be here and in here. Now keep that in mind when you watch this video on the distribution of radioactive contamination. Now here, let's start that over again. Now here is where they're growing, right here is where they're growing the Hiziki, and this is where they're growing here, and here is where they're growing the seaweed, the kelp. Now watch this. This is a simulation model of cesium-137 released into the Pacific Ocean. Look at these areas in here where this kelp is being grown. See what's happening up in here? Look at this. It's getting caught in here. So now let's play this out. It's coming on 1,000 days after the release. Remember these areas. Look at how it's getting trapped in here. So they're bragging about how it's being I think this is where they're talking about the water's coming through here, but the water from Fukushima, this contamination is getting actually blocked over in here. But if you go down to after almost 4,000 days after the release, basically the whole Pacific Ocean is just basically now this color, where it used to be down here, blue. Now here is where they're growing the kelp, and then here's where they're growing the Hiziki. So this is why you are not going to get any samples with no cesium in it, which is kind of a scary thought. Okay, this is the Ria coast. That's the Kamishima Island. Now, I don't know if this is where, if I know this is, they're probably growing fish in here, or I'm wondering also if they're using it to grow kelp. Like these things over in here. Who knows? Now if you go to the nullskull, this is why they're talking about how the water is filtered, which they are true the way the currents go. It goes right past Japan and pushes the currents away from the island. Now, that's a good thing because Fukushima is actually right over here. Right here is Fukushima. But the problem is, it doesn't matter whether it's taking it away because the globe is still a closed environment. It's not leaving the Earth. It's just going to keep building up in the oceans, and it builds up around the world. That's why the most important map is this one, showing the cesium not leaving. And this is the reason why it might be taking it a step beyond, but I do not want to ingest any radiation. No radiation is good for you. And they're trying to say low doses of radiation aren't harmful. And if it's less than 10 becquerels, it means it's not detected. It's detected. It's just there's considering it a safe level if it's between 10 becquerels. That means that there's 10 disintegrations a second happening in that medium. Whether it's the seaweed, whether it's green tea, or whether it's tuna or salmon or whatever it may be, it's still a becquerel, and it's still radiation, and it's still carcinogenic. So this is the reason why I switched from eating organic, and it's too bad because I really thought they were a pretty great product. But you're going to have to make your own decisions whether you think eating a couple isotopes in your chickpeas is safe or not. I'm not taking that chance, and that's why I'm not eating it. Okay, if you go to the website, you go to click on this article here, and it's going to show you the nuclear update for the nuclear radiation food safety update from Eden. And I'm not saying that they are not testing, like doing like a really amount of food safety measures regarding the radiation contamination. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they are testing a lot of it. They're saying they're testing it in Japan. They're testing it in the United States. I think what they're saying here is they actually bought the unit and are testing it themselves. They send it to this analytical lab in Oak Ridge, Tennessee for the radionuclide testing. And they have probably the state of the art to pick up these not so common gamma emitting radionuclides. But this is what my concern is right here. It says that after all these steps are taken, they're sent to this place in Oak Ridge for testing to detect the radionuclides. Now, they're only testing for the following radioactive isotopes: cesium-134, cesium-137, iodine-131. There is probably over 100, or even if not more, isotopes that are in the kelp that is coming out of Fukushima. They're only testing for 3 of them. That is my main concern. And like I said, I take it to the umpth degree, but I'm just trying to warn you that it's in that stuff, is what I'm saying. So you just got to be careful.
And so seafood is in the ocean, and we consume seafood, and so does a lot of animals and mammals and birds and a lot of people. I think it's around 3 billion people depend upon the Pacific Ocean. This is reactor 4, totally got it, destroyed, wrecked. It was equal to the 190-foot apartment building, 150 feet wide. And that's reactor 3. You can see this is totally gone, yet they're claiming it's still fine, like the building behind me. Even though this one is already torn down, as I showed you in the earlier stream. Say gullible slowly sounds like oranges. Halfway point for the transfer. So they're showing you the World Nuclear News, showing you beautiful fuel pool and alleging, but not showing you the picture over there that I added onto it. So the rest of the pictures I put in behind me is what I added, and that's the official story over there. The BBC lied to everybody. See the beautiful fuel pool in number 4 is what they're talking about. That's ludicrous assertions, okay? Iodine. So if you find iodine 131 in your tap water, then that means there's 10 times more iodine 132, 30 times more iodine 133, 31 times more iodine 129 than there was of iodine 131 in your tap water. And the 132, 133 ionizes and radiates its thyroid glands 9 times more effective than the 131. All right? Okay? All right. Let's move on. The reactors run on plutonium, not iodine. Oh, and mostly uranium. And they create these hot particles we call cesium, americium, and all their daughters are going to be in the same liter. And then some Superman shit will be in there, krypton, and that'll smurf you up like you can't believe. There was actually big plumes modeled from the Norwegian Institute of Air Research on the xenon 133, but not on the rest of the isotopes or their daughters, or any of the other ones are their daughters. Okay, all right, yeah, getting it yet?
From their email of November 2013 on their ongoing testing of Japanese foods in their containers coming from Fukushima, they state here that since March 2011, Eden Foods has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on radionuclide testing. Through the inception of our radionuclide testing protocol, we have tested almost all of our Japanese products at least 10 to 12 times. They continue to be vigilant with the supply base in Japan, ensuring that the suppliers are monitoring the radionuclide testing for new crop raw material prior to processing, and that they remain confident that through the procedures and testing frequency that the lab that they are working with are protecting the Japanese food supply. They've spent 2.5 years refining this process and firmly believe that they're doing everything possible to ensure safe, quality, traditionally made Japanese food, and I believe them and trust them. But when I sent that email, I was really looking for the actual tests to see whether there was absolutely 0 becquerels per kilogram in the kelp, and I don't think, and I didn't expect them to send that to me, and they didn't. So that's why we just got to take their word for it, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's why I'm going with the other brand.